What is up, everybody out there in 2022, and what an exciting year for lightsabers this is going to be. This is going to be Master Jeff Chong's instructional video for his Obi Wan Kenobi, A New Hope rendition. This is Roman props, and actually this saber was built by me about just over 4 years ago. And if you want to go back and look at the video on my YouTube channel, just go back, over 4 years ago, and you can see part 1 and part 2 of this build. Back then, Jeff and I were trying to create the world's first removable chassis in a Roman props, A New Hope Obi Wan Kenobi, which in my opinion will always be the most accurate version of this lightsaber. It's amazing. The real steel construction in it. This thing is super heavy. I love it. This right here is probably my favorite lightsaber, from A New Hope, from Star Wars in general. This hands down is my favorite lightsaber in all of the Star Wars universe. So with that said, just past the 4-year mark, Jeff's battery started to lose its life like lithiums do after a few years. And so he wanted to send it to me for a tune-up. So he shipped it to me from Singapore. And once I dove into this, I kind of realized that I wasn't completely happy with the way the sound on this lightsaber ever sounded. This used to be a Nigon Electronics board. I think it was an i2, so it couldn't even be upgraded to real swing. And it had a 23 millimeter Railmaster speaker in it, and I just don't think the amp was ever powerful enough to make this thing, loud enough, or it didn't have a lot of bass, even though it was a bass speaker. And so I decided to go in and completely rework the thing from top to bottom, and basically give it a complete overhaul. Like if this was a car, it would have got a new engine, a new transmission, new everything. So this is a complete rework. Basically, I gutted it, started over with the chassis, and updated it to a Proffie 2.2 with all the bells and whistles. And I'm completely satisfied with it now, and I hope Jeff is too after he sees this update video, because as usual there's some good surprises in here. So let's go ahead and dive in, and I'm going to start from the emitter. And so Jeff sent me everything. He's got the blade plug in here, and we've right now this is an in-hell LED, so it's got a really thick copper heat sink on the inside of it, and we made the LED even removable, and he can change from an RGB LED over to a blue-white LED. And so what we used was audio jacks to make this happen, to plug in the LED. And so I'll show you that part. But real quick, Jeff's first kind of surprise, because we talked about doing this, but I don't know if he's seen the whole thing yet. He had the very first release of Roman props, A New Hope Obi Wan lightsaber, and it came with kind of like a dull aluminum weathered pommel. And as we all know, the screen accurate version is chrome. It's actually, the sync knob, the British sync knob type of thing. And so I wanted to update it for him, and I didn't know if this would work or not, but I put it on the rotary polisher, and as you can see, this thing cleans up pretty nice. It actually didn't even take that long to bring it up to like a mirror polish. And so to get his blade plug out, and actually, you know what, I'll show that later, because what I wanted to show real quick is what it looks like with the blade plug in fired up. So here we go. Here's your ignition on the front part of the bubble strip, auxiliary on the back part. So here we go. It's been thoroughly updated. Smooth swing, of course. And it has FET 263's battle mode in it. Whoop, I shut it off. Has FET 263's battle mode in it, so when you clash it, right now it's in standard mode. Yep, and so if you want to go back over to battle mode, you just hit and hold the auxiliary button and swing it. Swing it with aux down. And then, see how you clash it, and then it starts to do lockup mode, and then when you move it, it comes out of lockup mode. So yeah, way better improvement on sound. I upgraded it to an Adrian Tan Saber Essentials 23 millimeter bass speaker that I got from him eons ago, and kind of saved it for some special builds, because I don't think you can get those anymore. It's the silver cone speaker on it. All right. The other cool thing is I added FET263's twist ignition and twist off. That's my favorite. I didn't want to do the swing ignition on because I feel like when the blade's out, that'll do some false activation. So I really like the twist on and twist off. So here we go. Yeah, definitely one of my favorite upgrades on the new Proffies. So twist on, twist off. Easy peasy. All right, so let's go ahead and break this thing down. And the way that you do that is we kept the modification in the pommel where we kept the modification in the pommel where the key for the emitter, the retention key, is inside the pommel. So when we take the pommel off, you can look inside of there. We just put a small neodymium magnet in there with the key, and so you can pop it out like this. And here, Jeff, is your new chrome end piece. There I am. You can take out your key. So hopefully I can get it out of here with these gloves. Let's find out, because it's a strong magnet. I'm probably not gonna be able to do this with the gloves on. Hey, look at that. That sucker's in there. There we go. So there. Pommel, set that off to the side. And so one of the things that Jeff wanted me to do was he asked if we could make more than one blade retention hole in here. Now, the Roman Props comes with just one blade retention hole. It's a 440. And so Jeff was like, hey, can you add a second? Well, from my experience, whenever I've just had two, kind of no matter where I place them, especially with a thin neck and a shallow emitter like this, you still get some wobble. So I was like, hey, if you really want to maximize your Vader's Vault blade retention, let's go ahead and do 3 of them. And so I drilled and tapped 2 more, which was not easy because it's steel. I drilled and tapped 2 more 440 and put 2 more set screws in here. So now you get like a triangular pattern that grips the blade from all sides. So to take out either the blade plug or the blade, Master Jeff, you just need 1 rotation on this, and that's it. So I'll flip around. You barely have to loosen it. So you just, go in here and you go 1 full turn, and then again 1 full turn, and this will probably just practically fall out. Let's hope, right? There we go. So there's the blade plug he sent me when we first built this, 4 years ago. All right, and here is what's interesting about this is actually the original Nikon Nacre LED, the RGB LED in here that was made by Nikon Electronics. And I know a lot of people were having trouble getting these to work with the Proffies because it uses like an onboard transistor, not a resistor. I think it's a transistor that kind of reduces the flow to the red and keeps you from blowing the red dye. Well, I did find a workaround, and I was able to desolder that component off of the RGB LED, and then I used just a regular resistor on the soundboard to keep from blowing the red. So I actually found a workaround on it, and I actually turned down the power to the LED just a little bit because this is, again, the steel heat sink, so it keeps it much cooler when you do it that way. But here, let's go ahead and blind everybody. Yep. Oh, there we are. Color change. I'll show you how to use that. So off. All right, so let's go ahead and tear it down. And I guess I can go ahead and do the emitter first. So I will unscrew the emitter. And Jeff already knows how to do this part. Nothing's really changed. So let's unscrew the emitter. And there is your audio jack right there. And so let's completely break this thing down. And so put the emitter here. And then this is the custom RGB LED Nacre, modified Nacre. And then this is the steel heat sink, which comes with a threaded piece that threads into the thin neck. And this in my opinion, is a lot stronger than the aluminum heat sinks. So this is, if you're gonna wanna like duel with this, or even, swing it around pretty hard and hit stuff, this to me is the better heat sink to have. You just have to be careful of how hot if you use an in-hill LED. So here's this with the audio jack. This is the male end of it. It's a 4-pole, so it's able to handle red, green, blue, and ground. So that's how we set it up over 4 years ago. I'll put that in there. And then we'll loosen the clamp.
Somewhere in space, this may all be happening right now.
And we'll pull out the kill key.
Hello there.
And we will loosen it. Oh, so this is another new modification, Jeff. Remember before we used to kind of have to put the acrylic piece down inside and then slide the bubble strip in. And so I never really loved that setup. It worked, but it was kind of cumbersome at times, and you'd really have to get things lined up. And so I was wrestling with this idea of like, how can I make this work so much smoother and nicer? And I showed it to Barbara, and I was like, you know what? I don't know how else to get around this other than slide it in type of thing. And so she looked at it, and I showed her what I was up against, and she was like, why don't you just make the two of them one single piece? So here we go. This is what Barbara came up with. She says, why don't you just go ahead and like figure out a way to glue this to the bubble strip with your acrylic insert that pushes the buttons on the chassis. And that's how it works now. So this has been epoxied, super glued, and then touched up with fingernail polish, to clean it all up, because the super glue has a tendency to cloud the plastics. And so far so good, Jeff. This has been working really sweet for me. So very happy. Thank you, Barbara. My wife's a genius. So I'm going to set that off to the side. I'll put all the pieces here so you guys can see them as I go along. There we go. And so then you can unscrew the pommel. I'm sorry. Let's go ahead and do this section first, or whichever section comes off first. It doesn't really matter. So yeah, we slide this off, and then this is the 4-pole audio connection extension that goes in here that goes to the thin neck. We can remove that. There that is. And then in the emitter, Jeff, I left the ultraviolet LED in there. That's kind of like a battery status indicator. And when this starts to get dim, we kind of set this up before, when this starts to get dim, that the battery is going down. I also took the copper insert that was in here from before and put some holes in it, reworked this whole audio jack part to make it more secure. I used a metal core audio jack, which seems to be working way smoother than the previous plastic one. So that's been updated. And then, left everything else on the outside pretty much the same weathering wise. So let's go ahead and get this out of here. I'm gonna unscrew it from the cage. There we go, that breaks down. And so then all that's left is your clamp and your chassis. As you take that part off. There we go. There's the clamp. So here's your chassis, Master Jeff. All reworked and ready to go. And twist activation still. And what we did now, since it has the Proffie, channel 1 is the blade, channel 2 is the crystal chamber, and channel 3 is inside, the chassis. We put like Space Window hooked me up with this amazing, super high resolution pixel strip that goes in there. This actually has, I believe, 14 pixels on the inside of here. They're super high definition, so it's really cool. And then there's a single 50/50 LED that lights up into the crystal chamber, and this crystal chamber is like 10 times brighter than it was before, using the standard RGB old school LED that's set up from the Nigon. So this thing's way better now. Here we go. And so that's FET's FET 263's battle mode. So when you clash and then you pull away, it stops. Now, Jeff, if you want to go back into standard mode, what I love about this is you can hit auxiliary, hold it down real quick and swing it. Try it again. And you hear that beep. Now that lets you know that you are out of battle mode. And now it's just regular kind of, saber action where it's clash, And then you go back to the clash mode where you hit down auxiliary and then tap it, and it goes into this mode. So, let's see, we'll do some blasters with the button. Got the gloves on. And then twist to deactivate. Bump my camera. Oh, and then also, you'll notice on some of the fonts that the light works on some of them because I attached it in sync with channel 3, and some of them it doesn't. So like this one, it works. So it's really cool how it lights up the front. There we go. So this one, it actually turns on and off. Some of the other fonts it won't, depending on if there's idle effects with it in idle. Now, one of the things that Jeff and I talked about doing on the update, because I told him I was going to move this up to a Proffie, was we wanted to dig in deep to the idle effects. Let's move this pommel to keep this from sliding around. So I really dug into the idle effects on this. I went to FET263's website and loaded up all kinds of cool crystal chamber effects, really cool, like the pixel strip and the chassis here, really cool effects in here. And so, surprise, Master Jeff, the other surprise for you is I'm going to be controlling it with the iPad, and it's got the Feezy chip in it. So I think I already had you download the app, but you didn't know it was for this saber. And so now you can control it with your phone, iPhone, iPad, and then with the Force Sync app from Dimitri's stuff. So I'm gonna take off the glove, and we are going to roll through the fonts just real quick to show the idle effects that I programmed in here. So next font.
Cannot escape your destiny.
So this is like a Yoda font on here. And Jeff and I talked about some of the custom things that I did to the crystal chamber. Was we talked about making the crystal almost like it has a life of its own. And so I used some really like heavy flickers and things like that makes the crystal kind of look like it's flickering, getting ready to emit some force energy here when we activate the saber. So ignition, and then you see it goes solid. Clash, blasters,
May the force be with you.
some force sounds, lock up, tip drag, and then of course there's all kinds of audio. You have your Yoda training scenes in here, all kinds of audio.
So certain are you.
Deactivate. Next font.
If you strike me down, I shall become more powerful than you can possibly imagine.
Of course, Obi-Wan's got to fight Vader, right? This is another one that Jeff and I talked about updating on the crystal chamber. If you notice, the crystal chamber is really dim when it started out, and so right now the crystal chamber is slowly like warming up, like a hot metal, hot crystal type of thing. It's gonna get hotter and hotter as it warms up. So that's what it's doing right now. So we'll go through the clash, blasters, force, lock up, and tip drag. And then of course, you got Obi Wan and Vader's scene in here. I left that in there, Jeff, from over 4 years ago. I thought you'd like that. And then when we shut it down, you'll notice the crystal chamber. You got your chassis idle effects changing over to idle mode, and then the crystal chamber slowly, the crystal's super hot, and the crystal slowly starts to cool off, and you'll see it completely go out. Right about now. There, now it's completely cooled off, and you're actually getting some light bleeding through from the chassis through the clear acrylic disc in here. All right, next font.
She may not look like much, but she's got it where it counts.
Got to have some Millennium Falcon in here, right? So yeah, gotta love FET263's stuff. This is his animation from his website. Blasters, lock up, and then shut down. Next font.
The Sand People are easily startled, but they'll soon be back, and in greater numbers.
So this is actually font 1 right here. So I did like a Tusken Raider thing where Obi Wan may have been out in the desert type of thing. Blasters. Clash. Force. Alright, next. And I can just flip through the fonts without having to shut it down on the iPad, so this is cool. Let's go to the next one.
Kenobi? Boy, am I glad to see you.
So I left a lot of the original quotes in there from the 4 years ago and then added a bunch more. You got 16 fonts in here now, Master Jeff. And of course, they're all, K-Sith and Jesse Kirkbride from KyberphonicFonts.com. All my favorites. I love this stuff. Absolutely incredible.
Don't make me destroy you.
Next.
Your eyes can deceive you. Don't trust them.
A New Hope Training.
Your eyes can deceive you. Don't trust them.
All right, so you guys have seen a lot of these fonts. I'm not going to go through all of them. I was going to go through another one and show you the flickering effects. This is another. There you go. So there's warm-up effects in different colors. Of course, you have color change on this, Jeff, so you can do whatever you want. Whenever the blade changes, the crystal chamber also changes. Some of them mirror the blade, some of them don't. And then you've got your idle effects on the inside of the chassis. So again, channel 1, 2, and 3 on the Proffie in here. All right, so it's all taken apart. Let's show how it goes back together. Now that we've shown off how to use it. And here we go. We'll start with this part. Plug it back in. Yep. Drop this on here. And then we are going to put this in place. Screw this down. Actually, no, let me back up a sec, Jeff. I wanted to show you something new I figured out. Hold on. Almost forgot. So let's take the clamp off. And let's see. So let's get the clamp out of here because I want to show you something I figured out on lining this up so that it's screen accurate. So you notice how you got your recharge port and or kill key that you put in here. That's a rotate kill key. Oh, and another thing I forgot to show off was, there you go, Master Jeff. It's a magnetic recharge. I updated that, and then you can see your Proffie in there. You got your USB and your SD card access all in the back now. Kind of like before, but the magnetic recharge is just so much nicer. You just plug it in and with the little magnetic piece, and it starts charging on any USB device. So you technically have two ways to charge this. You could do it through here while the chassis is out, but this is way easier just to use the magnetic recharge right here. So what I wanted to show you is when you put this cage on, okay, I've made a silver mark just with like a Sharpie, and it's right here. You can see the silver mark right there on the tip of my thumb. So what I've noticed is when you place this on this corner by this silver mark, and then you lock it into place with this, and it's probably gonna go all wonky until I get it completely secured in there. So, and you don't need to tighten this all the way down. There's a tiny bit of a gap left over. You just kind of tighten it till it stops and it's secure. Right like that. And that keeps it from moving around. There's a tiny bit of like, 0.5 millimeter gap right in here that I leave there so that this is super secure and isn't gonna like move or spin around because it's putting tension on the chassis here and then, all the way at the end. So this keeps it rock solid. So there. Then we're gonna take a clamp, line it up with your kill key hole. This guy right here, as you know. I'm gonna do that. And then line it up right there. Put the kill key in. Yep. And then we can screw the backside on.
I sense something. That presence I've not felt since.
And then my new favorite part of the update is I'd replaced your tactile switch on the inside. Instead of the old TCSS kind of clicky one that didn't have it, you had to push it down pretty far to get it to ignite. I just put a brass top, super sensitive tactile switch on there now, so it's way easier to ignite. So then you take this guy, just like before type of thing, but it's way easier. Got to make sure your clamp is open all the way. You're going to put this in here and make sure it's completely down and flush. The bubble strip is in the groove in this direction before you close it. And then when you close it, so after you get it closed up, clamped up, here's your aux as usual.
Help me, Obi Wan Kenobi. You're my only
And your
hope.
ignition or twist. Okay? So then we'll go ahead and put the pommel on. And we'll put your cap back on. All right, and then we can put the emitter on. This thing's really sensitive now. So to put your emitter on, you just make sure that your LED is down inside the hole, like this, and then click and rotate. Okay. Make sure that your LED is pushed all the way in to get it to use all three colors, and there we go. All right, that pretty much covers it, guys. I can't think of anything else to go over on this. So there you go, Jeff. You got any questions? Let me know. And, of course, we'll go back and forth. And everybody enjoy 2022. And I will see you in the next video. Jedi Arms Dealer, out. And may the Force be with you.